Welcome once again, Carol, to my lockdown chats. It's been a pleasure having you around, and thank you for joining us today. How's your
It's,
week been?
it's a great pleasure to see you again and to be with you. My week's been well. Various activities and trying to keep myself busy. How have you been?
Good as well, trying to keep busy as well, trying to cope with school and other things just so I keep moving. I don't stay stagnant. Yes,
Yeah, that's so important.
exactly. So today is going to be a follow-up from our last discussion on self-coaching. If you're familiar with the phrase "pull yourself up by the bootstraps," so I
Yes.
came across that, and I thought it would be good to talk about that. The phrase itself doesn't make sense. It sounds impossible to pick yourself up from the ground by your own bootstraps. But yeah, so today I'm just going to ask you why it's important, how to do that, how we can do that, and three, the what if question. So generally, our questions are going to surround that.
Mm.
First of all, Carol, if you notice when we are young, or even now, whenever we fall down, the first thing we do if we want to get up is look around to see who is there to pick us up, or
Yes.
there for me to hold on to lift myself up. But what this phrase is suggesting is look at your bootstraps and lift yourself up, meaning look within yourself or what resources you have and pull
Mm.
yourself up. So my question is, why is it important? Why should I be concerned with my own taking responsibility for my own actions, taking responsibility for my growth and development in career and relationship in life in general? Why is it important?
It's very important because you are your own responsibility. Of course, when we're young, we have people around us. We have our parents, our friends, our teachers to help us to develop. But as we grow as a young adult and as an adult and a professional, it's our responsibility to pull ourselves up from our bootstraps, if you like. And if you think about it as a metaphor, your bootstraps, you pull yourself up. Can you imagine really being carried all your life? That just seems so absurd, doesn't it? Our parents, our friends, our teachers, when we're younger, will help to pull us up by our bootstraps. If we don't start taking responsibility for ourselves, we're relying on other people always to do that for us. And so, this metaphor of do we really want to be carried around for the rest of our lives? Well, I would say no, it might feel comfortable some of the time, but it's not comfortable and it's not helpful. So taking responsibility for ourselves. So if I take it to me, taking responsibility for myself is my responsibility. It isn't anyone else's, and it's how I choose to do that, and it's who I choose to bring with me along the way that will determine the extent to which I'm successful or not. So it's useful to have some sort of a framework, um, and it really comes back to knowing think about the outcomes you want. So if we go back to this, is the outcome that I want for my responsibilities that I give it to other people the whole time, or do I want the outcome of being responsible for myself? That, of course, comes with a huge degree of commitment and accountability and responsibility, of course. But it also comes with a great deal of excitement. Imagine if we are responsible for ourselves, how much does that put us in the driving seat?
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want to be the driver of their own life? So that's what I would say is why it's important.
Yeah. I heard the saying that if life was a movie, you should be the director of your own life. You shouldn't let someone direct you, and you just be just a mere co-star, not even the star of your own life. So I think that's true. Being the driver's seat, you get to choose which direction you want
Yes.
to go and predict more the outcome.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
But then the question, second question. how do I do that? This phrase comes from this tale of a soldier and an adventurer who kind of was stuck in a swamp, and he kind of pulled himself out of the swamp by his bootstrap. It looks impossible, but how do you do that in a situation where you feel stuck and there's nothing to hold on to?
It's a challenge, you know. If we think about this, being in the swamp, then and looking around you, it's like, what do I have to hold on to? What do I have to pull myself along? You have your self-will and your self-belief, and sometimes we need to, you know, sort of metaphorically in this swamp, lay across the swamp, and sometimes we have to crawl our way out. We're not always ready to stand tall and just walk out. Sometimes we need to change our view, accept the journey that we're on, and work out what is the very, very first step I need to take to get myself out of, if you like, this danger zone of not knowing how to do it. Because it is a danger zone, really, when you think about it. So change your view, consider what it is you need in that moment. So imagine you are this person in the swamp. If you're trying to push against that weight of swampy water, and you're standing up and you just can't get any further forward, you just want to give up. So what's the alternative? Could you lean forward? Could you swim? Could you just take a moment and gather your strength again and look around you and look at what's available to you? There is always something. If we look hard enough, there's always something available to us to help us. Whether that's a branch, a smile from someone, if we have pets, you know, spending a little bit of time just being with whether you've got a cat or a dog, and, you know, whatever it is you need in that moment, then grab it and hold on to it, and then you can take the next step and the next step. And it really does come back to what outcome do you want? Do you want to be stuck? Well, no one really wants to be stuck. But how do we unstick ourselves? That is a challenge. So clarify your expectations. You know, as you say, it's about being that director of your own movie. What movie do you want? What sort of director do you want to be? And what actor do you want to be in your own film? Do you want to be someone that is successful, or do you want to be a victim? And that, you know, that may sound harsh, but we do have to ask ourselves these questions. If I am the director of my own movie, what sort of director do I need to be? And what sort of actor do I want to be in my own movie? And, you know, write those things down and just write it in a free-form way. And then when you step back, you'll be able to see, actually, I have got some outcomes here. I've got some expectations here. I just wasn't really thinking of them as outcomes and expectations. So sometimes, you know, we need to sort of just give something a different label, and you will get a different result. And then apply a framework around it. In the business world, and a lot of the time in consultancy, there's a project management formula that gets used, and it's called RACI, RACI. And many people will see it as spelling out RACI: responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. Well, if you look at the English language, responsible and accountable are synonyms of each other. And so when I was looking at this quite some time ago, I was getting myself really rather confused about it because I was looking at it from an English language perspective. Well, accountable is just a synonym of responsible. So if I want to apply this to myself as a vehicle for self-development, then that accountability needs to change. Nobody else is accountable for me. I'm accountable to myself. So therefore, instead of accountable, what word would I use instead? And the word I've chosen is assist. So if I take you through the model, responsible. You are responsible for yourself. You own those bootstraps. So unless you really want people to be responsible for you for your whole life, then it's time to hold on to those bootstraps and accept your personal responsibility for yourself. But we don't go through life on our own. So think about who are the people around you that could assist you. Friends who can give you honest opinions. Your family who can help support you and nurture you. Maybe you've got teachers that can assist you with some guidance. But think about the people around you that could assist you on your journey, and be clear on what it is you're asking of them. And before you ask them, consider, am I giving them responsibility for me? Or am I genuinely asking for their assistance in my own responsibility? And then, the consult, the C of Raki. Think about people who could perhaps act as your mentors or a coach, and you can consult them for advice and guidance. That advice and guidance is different from the people who would be assisting you in your journey. They would be really sort of walking alongside with you and assisting you and giving you constant feedback. A mentor or a coach is somebody that would be with you occasionally and offer you an opportunity to pause, to reflect, and to remind you of how you are responsible for yourself. And then when you've developed and you've got a clearer idea of what it is you need to do, how you're doing it, and how you're being assisted, and who your mentors and coaches are, then that informing, that's the time that you would go out and inform the world. This is who I am. This is what I'm doing. Here are my goals. This is how I'm achieving them. And I'm telling you now, I'm informing you. So that's just a sort of quick run through a framework that can be really useful if we turn it as our own project manager, as our own director in that movie.
Okay, so if I'm hearing right, pulling yourself up by the bootstrap using the Raki doesn't actually mean you're doing the whole thing by yourself. You are in charge, but you're looking within yourself to see what's available, looking outside to see who is available, and not giving the full responsibility to them, but you're giving them roles to play that together kind of help you. So you are in charge. You're not waiting for them to carry you out of your bed and tell you breakfast is ready.
Yes.
Sort of. Yeah, I think so.
Absolutely. Because with that responsibility comes the onus on us to have self-belief. And for us to have self-belief, of course, we need that confidence to believe. And having people around us that can give us honest and clear views and guidance will help us to grow that self-belief. I'm reminded of a number of years ago, I was given the gift of being able to attend an Anthony Robbins 4-day conference in London. And it was a lovely opportunity. And of course, during the 4 days, we did the fire walk. And this gift meant that I could take a colleague with me. So I took a colleague.
I am envious.
And the first day was all around Anthony Robbins talking about how we need to believe in ourselves, how we can do things. And he spent the whole day telling people that they could believe in themselves. But for me, as brilliant as he is as a speaker, what resonated with me is how much the audience was being told, rather than having this belief in themselves. So that the whole day was around getting ourselves ready for this fire walk. And there was lots of, give me an A, give me an A, give me an O. And that's really not me. But it was a great atmosphere. And I remember thinking, I will not be told what to think and what to do. And I didn't appreciate it, but I was really curious to keep going along with it. And my colleague drew it all in and was really excited. And I thought, I'm not going to be told I can do the fire walk, so I'm not going to do it. And I had to have a little talk with myself, because I recognized that there was that little stubborn voice in my head. I didn't want to be told what to do. So I had to look at my reaction in the moment to that, and consider, why am I reacting like this? And it came back to, I'm being quite stubborn here. So anyway, the day carried on. And what Anthony Robbins said was, anyone who doesn't want to do the fire walk, I invite you to take your shoes and socks off and walk alongside the people that are doing it and support them. And I thought, yes, I can do that. I'll do that instead. I'm not doing the fire walk. And there must have been somewhere in me that I really wasn't comfortable doing the fire walk, but I wasn't recognizing that in the moment. And anyway, what changed was, as we were walking along, my colleague was in front, and off he went doing the fire walk, putting in place everything that Anthony had mentioned during the day. As he went to walk on those hot coals, I suddenly thought, I can't have a conversation about this unless I do it. So I've made that decision to do it. And I realized in that moment, I didn't want somebody to be making a decision for me. I needed and wanted to make that decision for myself. And in that moment, I made the decision and I did the fire walk.
Wow.
And what was really interesting was, coming out from the other side, was my colleague was, that was terrible. And I said, oh, did it hurt? And he looked at me and he said, well, did it not hurt you? I said, well, no, it didn't hurt me. And we had a talk about it afterwards, and we realized that the difference was self-belief. Yeah. He was told he could do it, but he didn't believe he could do it. I was told I could do it. I didn't want to be told I could do it. But in that moment of curiosity, I knew I couldn't have a conversation unless I did it. And therefore, I made the decision for myself. I empowered myself, and I did the walk. And I believed I could do it in that moment. So self-belief is so powerful and so important.
Wow, yeah, it makes a difference. And I think that's what I like when it comes to coaching. They don't tell you what to do. They ask you relevant questions that kind of bring out, you make the decision yourself as to where to go and what to do. I love that story. And should I say, I'm very envious. I've always wanted to go for one of those seminars. Well, fingers crossed. Okay, so third question. Some are saying, okay, the what if question. What if I don't have any bootstraps? What if I don't have the experience to compete in the professional world? What if everything around me is kind of working against me? What if I can't find any help around? What do they also do?
I would return that and say, what if nobody helps you? What if there is nobody? What are you going to do then? And it's, of course, it's difficult, and it's difficult to find those bootstraps, but we simply have to. They are there. We all have it within ourselves to find those bootstraps. And of course, there are going to be elements of mental health in here, and it will be more difficult for some people than for others. But we do all have the capacity and the capability in ourselves to find them if we choose to look. So if that, what if I don't have bootstraps? What if? Well, I would encourage you to look for them, find them, take a tiny, tiny step forward, and look beyond yourself. Maybe find somebody that you do admire, find a role model. But I would say not a role model where you think that, wow, they're just amazing, and it's that I'm never going to be in that situation, because you've set yourself a goal that's too far away. So find yourself a view that you can look at, whether it's a role model, whether it's a phrase, a saying, maybe a poster or something that resonates with you, and move towards it. And take that first step. And once you've taken the first step, the second step is easier. It's like anything really, isn't it? Whether you're writing a dissertation, whether you're writing a report, whether you're doing a PhD, whatever it is you're doing, whatever study you're doing, whatever self-development you're doing, the hardest step is the first step. But once you've made that, and you keep the momentum going, then that what if ceased to exist. So find your bootstraps. They are there. They might be buried quite deeply, but they are there. And have the belief in yourself. Because, if we don't have belief in ourselves, how are other people going to believe in us? If other people have belief in ourselves and we don't have that belief in ourselves, so your families, your friends, your parents, if they have a view of you and they give you a compliment and you reject that compliment, you're saying, I don't believe your view of me. And that can feel really desolate and really lonely. So think about what people are saying. Ask people, when do you see me at my best? When do you see me at my worst? And listen to what they're saying, particularly when they see you working at your best. What are you doing? Accept it. It's a gift. It's a compliment. Accept it and start believing it. That self-belief starts really with that sort of the need to love yourself. And if you can have that compassion for yourself, you can open up yourself to self-belief.
Yeah, I think you said it to me better. The question of what if nobody helps you? So then I'm thinking, are you going to stay in the swamp all day till nobody comes, or hopefully someone comes around? And again, self-belief and the need to love yourself. I think if you do believe in yourself, you would find something. It's like finding the red thing in the room. If that's what you're looking for, you'll definitely find it amongst all the colors. Yes. So once again, thank you, Carole, for the message. Really, really appreciate this conversation. It really resonates a lot. Any last words for us?
My pleasure. Love yourself. Really to find a way of being okay with yourself. And then through that, you'll find your bootstraps. and pull yourself up by your bootstraps with all of that self-belief that will come with it. So, as ever, have hope, have courage, and just do it.
And pick up yourself by the bootstraps. Thank you very much, Carole.
My great pleasure.
I wish you a good weekend.
And you too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.